You are ready to go?
Yes. Okay.
Yes, please.
Welcome everyone to the first class of the Mahatmas and their letters. In this course, we are going to try to clarify the theosophical concept of the masters, to familiarize students with the Mahatma letters, to emphasize the broad purpose of the master's work, and to learn what is required of us if we are to assist in that work. Required texts for this course are the Mahatma Letters to A.P. Sinnett Chronological Edition and Masters of Wisdom, the Mahatmas, Their Letters and the Path. Also recommended is Letters from the Masters of the Wisdom, first and second editions. Now, what the Mahatma letters are and what they are not. The letters are exactly that, letters. For the most part, they are one side of a correspondence carried out between A.P. Sinnett, a highly educated, intelligent Englishman, and two Indian sages known as Kutumi and Maurya. Now, because these were private letters not intended as a book of public instruction, one will find a great deal of material which is irrelevant today. Specific issues which were important at the time for the individuals involved will have no importance today. The situations will be meaningless to us. The context will not be explained to us because the individual to whom the letter was addressed knew the pertinent facts. In the earlier editions of the Mahatma letters, the letters were not printed in chronological order of receipt. They are very roughly organized by the editor into topics. The organization is rough because many letters deal with multiple topics, topics which were raised by the questioner or topics which the adept felt important to raise. Some of the letters address an issue relevant only to the recipient, but many of the letters contain timeless gems of information about our world, the spiritual life, and the nature and destiny of humanity. It is for these reasons that a study of the Mahatma letters is more than worth the effort. Many of the letters were precipitated, that is, materialized. This is not emphasized in the letters, but it is an issue to be considered. While this may be a fascinating subject for us, it is the content of the letters which will most concern us in this course. The original letters are housed in the British Library in London. The precipitated letters have a curious feature. It appears as though the ink is not only on top of the page, but through the page. Also, those letters look as though they have been printed on a printer, each letter of each word appearing to be made of tiny dashes. Surely the writer would not have painstakingly done such a time-consuming task when all he needed to do was to write in the normal fashion. Portraits of Kutumi K.H. and Maurya M. hang in the shrine room of the Theosophical headquarters in Adyar, India. Those portraits were done by a German artist whose hand, Maurya said, he would guide. HPB said the portraits were a good resemblance of the two Mahatmas, but that the one of KH showed him to be darker complexioned than he was. Now, what is an adept? This is in letter 85B of the chronological edition. He wrote, at this stage of our correspondence, misunderstood as we generally seem to be, even by yourself, my faithful friend, It may be worth our while and useful for both that you should be posted of certain facts, and very important facts, connected with adeptship. Bear in mind then the following points. 1. An adept, the highest as the lowest, is one only during the exercise of his occult powers. 2. Whenever these powers are needed, the sovereign will unlocks the door to the inner man, the adept, who can emerge and act freely, but on condition that his jailer, the outer man, the body and personality, the me, will either completely or partly will be either completely or partly paralyzed, as the case may require. 3. The smallest exercise of occult powers, then, as you will now see, requires an effort. We may compare it to the inner muscular effort of an athlete preparing to use his physical strength. As no athlete is likely to be always amusing himself at swelling his veins in anticipation of having to lift a weight, so no adept can be supposed to keep his will in constant tension and the inner man in full function when there is no immediate necessity for it. When the inner man rests, the adept becomes an ordinary man, limited to his physical senses and the functions of his physical brain. Habit sharpens the intuition of the latter, yet is unable to make them supersensuous. The inner adept is ever ready, ever on the alert, and that suffices for our purposes. At moments of rest, then, his faculties are at rest also. When I sit at my meals, or when I am dressing, reading, or otherwise occupied, I am not thinking even of those near me. And Joao Kuhl can easily break his nose to blood by running in the dark against a beam, as he did the other night, just because instead of throwing a film, he had foolishly paralyzed all his outer senses while talking to and with a distant friend. And I remained placidly ignorant of the fact. I was not thinking of him, hence my ignorance. From the aforesaid, you may well infer that an adept is an ordinary mortal at all moments of his daily life, but those when the inner man is acting. Couple this with the unpleasant fact that we are forbidden to use one particle of our powers in connection with the eclectics, for which you have to thank your president and him alone, and that the little that is done, so to say, smuggled in, and then syllogize thusly. KH, when writing to us, is not an adept. A non-adept is fallible. Therefore, KH may very easily commit mistakes of punctuation that will often change entirely the whole sense of a sentence. Idiomatic mistakes very likely to occur, especially when writing as hurriedly as I do. Mistakes arising from occasional confusion of terms that I had to learn from you, since it is you who are the author of rounds, rings, earthly rings, etc. Now, this is an introduction to the course, and I have now an assignment for you. Read Mahatma letter 1 and 2. That's the same in the earlier editions. And letter 5, which is letter 4 in the previous editions. What do you think of the experiment? Does letter 5 make it clear that the masters are neither omnipotent nor omniscient, and that they do not interfere with free will? Secondly, read the introduction to Masters of Wisdom. You may ask questions and make comments by sending them to me at eabdill@nyc.rr.com. That's eabdill@nyc.rr.com. And I will respond to your questions and your comments. Thank you.